Hi guys, welcome to the tutorial. Here we are looking at slightly more depth some of the key vocabulary that we associate with decision making in business. Sort of justifying and explaining your decisions. Always keeping in mind the frameworks that we looked at in the previous tutorial and the SWOT and SMART and cost benefit analyses that we saw previously. So yeah, very much a vocabulary focused session this time around. Now again, we're coming back to why is it so important to have this key vocabulary, and the main two reasons are always the same. It's for precision, so that you are properly understood, or if you're listening to someone that you properly understand what they're saying, and also for your professional credibility. And when you're working in an English environment, being able to express yourself with clarity and precision in the second or third language, whatever your case might be, will definitely enhance the impression that you give, your professional image amongst your peers. So vocabulary matters because you can explain decisions clearly. Managers must articulate how and why decisions were made to ensure understanding and alignment across teams. Now, depending on the company, the culture, not all managers have to justify themselves to everyone all the time, but you should be able to anyway, just in case someone more senior or a stakeholder wants to understand the thought process behind these decisions. You should be able to openly and clearly talk about risks and alternatives. Using precise terms helps managers evaluate potential risks and explore alternate options effectively. You should be able to justify priorities and plans. Clear vocabulary supports explaining why certain priorities and backup plans are chosen to stakeholders. And communicate with confidence. Strong vocabulary builds confidence in meetings and reports, enhancing professional credibility. So yeah, it's about precision, clarity, being able to justify yourself when necessary, and your professional credibility. So one word that you'll hear a lot of in these contexts will be assessment. Now, an assessment is the process of evaluating or analysing a situation before making a decision. So we can use the verbs evaluate, analyse, assess more or less interchangeably. Analyse perhaps has maybe more connotation to do with numbers, but they're more or less the same thing. Example, before launching a new product, we conducted a full market assessment. I could there also say full market analysis or full market evaluation, and that could be just as good. Common collocations you'll find are risk assessment, performance assessment, needs assessment. You often find assessment with other nouns. Use verbs like conduct, carry out, perform when talking about assessments to sound professional and clear. That's important to know the verbs that we associate with these things. So you wouldn't say, you can say make an assessment or do an assessment, and it's perfectly understandable, but it doesn't sound quite right. We conduct assessments, we carry out assessments, we perform assessments. These are our verbs that we associate with assessments. These are our collocations. Prioritization, I have it here in the US spelling with a Z. In British English it would be with an S, but pronounced the same either way, prioritization. So prioritization is deciding what is the most important thing and what should be done first in order to manage tasks effectively. So which tasks are most important, which tasks are time sensitive. Effective managers are skilled at task prioritization, using time management, project planning and resource allocation to optimize productivity in business, obviously. Common phrases that you would find associated with prioritization are to set priorities or to rank tasks, it's the same thing, or focus on high impact activities, that is to say, do the most important things first. In corporate ease language. Functional phrases could be our top priority right now is, we'll need to deprioritize X to focus on Y. So you have prioritize and you have deprioritize. Deprioritize doesn't mean that you don't do it. Deprioritize means that it moves down the list of your priorities. The key benefit to this is it helps them concentrate efforts on what matters most, improving efficiency and decision quality. So priorities will be based around what is the most important and also what is time sensitive. These are your two criteria for deciding priorities. Trade-off is a very important phrase to keep in mind in business. A trade-off is a situation where gaining one thing means giving up or reducing another, highlighting a necessary compromise. So one of the most common trade-offs you'll get is between cost and quality. If we get cheaper material or cheaper parts, or we spend less on labour, often we'll save money, but that is likely to have a knock-on effect on quality. So there's a trade-off between the two things. Some common examples, we had to make a trade-off between speed and accuracy, or it's a balance between short-term gain and long-term success. Balance and trade-off are often used together. Use the preposition between to show two options involving the trade-off, and in exchange for to explain what is given up when choosing one option. We see the example here. We had to make a trade-off between speed and accuracy. So the faster we go, the less accurate we are. The more accurate they are, the slower we go. That's the trade-off. In exchange for means exchanging one thing out for the other, a complete substitution. Contingency, that's another really important word to be aware of. Contingency. Pronunciation might be a little bit strange. A contingency is a backup plan or preparation designed to address potential future problems or unexpected events. We have a contingency plan in case a supplier fails to deliver. So if supplier A doesn't deliver, maybe we have some extra material stored that we have for emergencies. Maybe we have supplier B ready to go, whatever it might be. Your contingency plan is your backup plan. What you do when plan A doesn't work. Terms connected to contingency include contingency planning, risk management, and plan B, which all focus on preparedness for when things don't go as they're supposed to. Common phrases include, we develop contingencies for potential disruptions, and what's our contingency if the project goes over budget? That is to say, what are we going to do if the project goes over budget? How are we going to fix or ameliorate that issue? So looking at how to use some of this vocabulary in context. So imagine you're there are team meeting delays. The project team discuss current delays. After assessing the issue, we prioritize communication with the client. This highlights evaluation and clear client interaction. So the idea would be, okay, there has been a delay in our service. We're not providing the service as quickly as we said we would or as we should. What are we going to do? Well, perhaps the only thing we really can do here is to talk to the client and apologize effectively or offer some kind of discount. So that's priority number one. Balancing priority and costs. A team member explains a trade-off. There's a trade-off between adding more staff and keeping costs low. So the more staff you have, usually the quicker, better quality work you can do, generally speaking, the more contracts you can take on. But it costs more money, clearly. So there's a trade-off there. There's a balance between the two things. Planning ahead with contingencies. We prepared a contingency plan for next quarter, demonstrating readiness for unforeseen challenges and risk management. So maybe next quarter looks like it has a potential to be problematic. Maybe supplier, maybe supply chains, maybe wider social context. We have a contingency. We have a plan B that we can fall back on if plan A doesn't work as we would like. So it's a useful table. We mentioned this before, but it's a useful summarizing table of the collocations that we find with our root words here. So we take assessment, we talk about risk assessment, performance assessment, skills assessment, prioritization, task prioritization, goal prioritization, resource prioritization, trade-off between X and Y, trade-off between staffing and budget, trade-off between speed and accuracy, and contingency. You got contingency plan, contingency fund, contingency measures for different situations. So summing it up, these key terms describe how managers think and make decisions. Mastering them improves your ability to explain and justify strategies. Using precise vocabulary helps clarify reasoning and build consensus. And reflecting on your own decision making deepens understanding and application. So you guys can think about decisions that you've already made or steps you've already taken in your job, and whether you define them as trade-offs or contingencies. How would you describe these tasks that you've been involved in or that you've seen other people involved in your work? Thanks very much, guys. I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.